The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not represent the views of any Grand Lodge nor a pendant body of Freemasonry.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Masonic Shelf, a once-a-month podcast where we take an in-depth look inside the pages of some of the most interesting Masonic books, literature, and lecture papers that are out there to give you some interesting instruction, illumination, and hopefully inspiration. Thanks for joining us today. I am Chris Williams.
And my name is Brad Kohanke. Today we're diving into a fascinating and often overlooked work by Dr. J.D. Buck, The Lost Word Found in the Great Work. Buck was a physician, theosophist, and a lifelong Mason, and he wrote this in 1908 as part of a movement called the Great School of Natural Science. The group's main text was The Great Work, The Constructive Principle of Nature in Individual Life, a book that Buck quotes and clearly admires. In his short paper, Buck takes one of the Freemasons' oldest mysteries, the search for the lost word, and turns it from an allegory into a personal spiritual task. He argues that the lost word isn't a literal name or secret syllable that vanished from the temple. It's the inner realization of divine law, what he calls the law of light. Buck insists that every Mason who truly seeks light must come of his own free will and accord, give the right knock, and prove himself duly and truly prepared, not just ritually, but morally and spiritually. It's a striking interpretation. The ceremonies of Masonry are symbols for the soul's own initiation. He ties this directly to the philosophy of the Great Work, especially in its chapter on compensation. There, the author describes a moral law that is perfect, impersonal, and absolutely just, a law that repays every cause with its effect until equilibrium is restored. Buck sees this as the very foundation of Masonic truth, that spiritual progress must be earned through personal harmony with these universal laws. So when Buck says the lost word is found, he means it's rediscovered within, when the Mason's life comes into balance with the law of light. Masonry, then, is not merely a fraternity, but a symbolic map of the great work of human regeneration. Whether or not you agree with this blending of Masonic and theosophical ideas, Buck's message is powerful. The secrets of Masonry are not hidden from us, but within us, waiting to be realized by the work we do on ourselves.
Yeah, this little book's an awesome little book, and I think this book is going to kind of tell everybody what we had in mind when we started this podcast. There is so much in here that it actually reminds me of 10, 15 years ago when after teaching lodge administration all day long for about 10 hours a day, we'd have dinner and end up in one of the other's rooms talking masonry and realizing it was 2 a.m. and then going back trying to get some sleep and realizing sleep wasn't going to come because we were thinking about everything we were talking about. And I have to tell you, that was some of the best times, in masonry for me. And this book kind of brings it back. And there's lots of little rabbit holes and dead end roads to go through, and there's no right and there's no wrong, but there sure is a lot of what ifs in this book, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I think that's kind of one of the things that we wanted to do in this podcast. So
yeah, and the book itself is not a very long read, but boy, is it packed with information.
Yeah, great information and things. I tell you, if somebody is out there on the fence about Masonic education and getting some ideas and to get their brains kind of moving esoterically, this is one of those books that does it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I guess what we're going to do tonight is we're going to read the book. And as we go along, if we get to a point where we want to stop and discuss something, because I'm pretty sure you and I are going to disagree on a lot of stuff in this book.
Well, maybe.
Well, maybe not, but there's a lot to make a reasonable man ask some questions and have some good opinions. So if you're ready, let's go. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start out. One of the things that jumped right out at me at the very first when I opened the book cover was other than that's published in 1908. There was just a simple 3-line message on that first page, and it said, "Addressed to all lovers of truth and helpers of mankind." That really says a lot. Really says a lot. And if there's anything that gets you started, that does it. But so I'd like to read the foreword to get us going, and it starts out, "It is due to myself, to my publishers, and to my Masonic brethren, as well as to all other parties who may be concerned, to say that the following pages were written entirely on my own initiative and without the suggestion of anyone, and that I am therefore entirely and solely responsible for the statements therein made. Having been for more than 40 years an explorer of the secret vaults of Freemasonry, and having at last discovered the lineal key in the possession of one who knows the combination, I desire simply to place this discovery at the disposal of my Masonic brethren, with the suggestion only that they have the same right and the same opportunity which I have had to examine the evidence for themselves and then act as it seems to them desirable, just, and right. Fraternally, J.D. Buck." And that's so who is the one who knows the combination? To me, he's talking about himself. He's talking about that he has gotten to a level or a state of enlightenment, and he considers himself, whether we believe it or not or agree with it or not, he considers himself as one who is in possession of the combination to realize all these secrets. What do you think?
I think you probably have a really good point, and I think he probably believes that. But in addition to that, and maybe more specifically, I think he's talking about J.E. Richardson, who's the guy that wrote the great work that he references in the paper itself. And I think that's why he wrote the foreword. I think because the great work was published by the same company that published his book, he wanted to make sure that his readers understood that he wasn't being paid to do this. He's not just supporting a fellow author's work from the same publishing house. He really believes that this guy has the keys to understanding. So that's my opinion. But
no, absolutely. He's there's a statement that I had read. I remembered that we had read it, I believe, in Morals and Dogma at some point, and it says Buck's language is the natural, or not Buck's language, but is a natural evolution of Pike's, and quote, "The one who knows is the awakened self, the conscious participant in the great work, the three aspects of being, mind, body, and spirit." And that kind of jumps out of the page, during that forward. And so we're just getting rolling here. So, what is the lost word? Is the title of this first chapter. What is it that was lost? Was it merely a word and nothing more? How many are there today who have any definite and satisfactory idea as to what is meant in Freemasonry by the lost word? It would probably be safe to say not 1 in 1,000. How many of those who have given the subject serious thought and consideration agree in their conclusions? Again, it would be safe to say very few. But why this uncertainty and confusion concerning the one thing which, above all others, gives meaning or point or significance to the degrees of a Master Mason? If assured by competent authority and on legal evidence that the lost word has reference to an ancient estate which has been increasing in value for many thousands of years until the distributive share of each Master Mason today is worth $1 million in cash, and that this vast Masonic estate is now ready for distribution as soon as a complete roster of the craft can be authenticated, how many Master Masons would have an interest in the lost word, sufficient to see that their names were on the roster? That's almost worth laughing about.
I think that's great. What a great analogy. I mean, you're going to spend all this time, money, effort, going through the degrees, paying for your fees, memorizing the work, and then forgetting about it and not delving into it deeper because you don't think there's any further value in it. Well, what if, like he said, what if the lost word referenced the ability to obtain a great deal of wealth? How much further interest would you show in it then? And how much is it worth to do the inner work on your soul and potentially, you know, contribute to a better world and a better place for mankind? I mean, it should be it should be valueless, you know?
Absolutely. And what about if you're reading this or listening to this right now? There's got to be some guys out there that are going to feel a little bit of shame in the realization that they fit this description. You know?
Yeah. Well, but like you said at the beginning, that's one of the reasons why we started doing this podcast.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay, continuing. This is too delicate a subject to admit of speculation, lest injustice might be done to the real spirit and genius of modern Freemasonry, as well as to the motives which inspire many individual members of the craft. There is, however, a sufficient reason for the general confusion among Masons as to the correct Masonic meaning of the lost word. Sir Albert Pike, our wise and revered Masonic historian, gives us a hint of it in his legenda in these words. What is most worth knowing in Masonry is never very openly taught. The symbols are displayed, but they are mute. It is by hints only, and these the least noticeable and apparently insignificant, that the initiate is put upon the track of the hidden secret. It was never intended that the mass of Masons should know the meaning of the blue degrees, and no pains were spared to conceal that meaning. Whatever the real cause may be, certain is that no single subject within the scope of Blue Lodge Masonry has been invested with more of real mysticism and occult uncertainty than is that of the lost word. During the course of his progress through the ceremony of the Master Mason's degree, each initiate is directly or indirectly informed that 1, there is a Grand Masonic word. Number 2, that at the time of the building of King Solomon's Temple, it was supposed to be in the possession of the Grand Master. 3, that before the temple was completed, some of the craftsmen conspired to compel their Grand Master to give them the word. 4, that on his third and final refusal to give them the word, he was killed. 5, that through his death, the word was lost. 6, that a substitute, therefore, was adopted until future ages might find out the right, and the initiate is given that substitute. This substitute, as every Master Mason knows, is a word in the ordinary sense of the term, which can be pronounced vocally.
okay, stop for a second. I want to go back to what Pike said before you continue.
Yeah.
What is most worth knowing in Masonry is never very openly taught. The symbols are displayed, but they are mute. It is by hints only that these least noticeable and apparently insignificant, that the initiate is put upon the track of the hidden secret. It was never intended that the mass of Masons should know the meaning of the blue degrees, and no pains were spared to conceal that meaning. When I read stuff like that, I become obsessed with trying to figure out the meaning behind these things.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's why I joined Masonry. I want to figure things out. And the fact that Pike says that makes me want to dig even deeper than I already have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And how many times in our continuing Masonic education classes were we actually in the middle of the class reading stuff like this and discussing it back and forth, that we were treated to wow moments where things just kind of popped out and hit us in the side of the head, like, whoa, I just realized what that meant. And
Yeah.
and those are feelings and times that you just don't forget. They're
And,
worth
and
their weight
even
in
even
gold.
more of them happened when we were preparing to teach the class.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, if you really want to learn about something, if you really want to burn it into your mind what something means, force yourself to have to teach about it because you'll go and
Exactly.
do the research. So you sound like you know what you're talking about. Those
Exactly.
wow moments came fast and furious, man.
Without a doubt. And really and truly, I think one of the keys that I think, and I tell people this all the time, find somebody that's masonically on the same level that you are, or close to the same level, and discuss things. And I'm telling you, that's where these revelations and all these wow moments happen. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. You're exactly right. We had so many wow moments. You got anything else you want me to go ahead?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The question now is, what was it that was lost to Freemasonry and Freemasons by the death of the Grand Master Hiram? Was it a mere word composed of syllables, which can be vocalized and pronounced, as can the substitute? Think for a moment. At the time referred to, there were three grandmasters in a Masonic sense who were directly interested in and identified with the building of the temple. These were King Solomon, King Hiram of Tyre, and Hiram of Bith. If the thing referred to was a mere word, all three of these great Masons must have been in possession of it. In that event, it could not have been lost to the craft by the death of but one of them. It would have required the death of all three to have lost such a word. To get over this impossible obstacle, the ingenious suggestion has been offered that it was a word of three syllables. I've heard that
Oh yeah.
several times.
Yeah.
Or parts, and that each one of these grandmasters had one part of it only. In this case, neither one alone could give it, but it would require all three, and that this was the reason for the grandmaster's reply that it could not be given except in the presence of the other two and himself. The inadequacy of this suggestion becomes apparent when we remember that the very first time these three grandmasters came together and pronounced the word, each one would thereafter know the whole word, and any one of them could thereafter pronounce it. It thus becomes clear that the thing that was lost through the death of the widow's son was not a mere word in the ordinary meaning of the term, because no such mere word could possibly be lost under the conditions which existed at the time of that historic event. There is, however, a consistent meaning for the term word, which has been and still is in use in both Masonry and the great school back of Masonry, and one which meets all of the conditions perfectly. That meaning was and is an instruction. At the time referred to and prior thereto, the great school was the source from which the Esoteric school of Masonry received the word of instruction in the secret spiritual knowledge of the ages. And to stop right there, when you talk about the word as an instruction, I remember growing up, hey, you come into work or something, hey, did you get the word? What word? Well, we're supposed to be doing this stuff different and doing this and well, they
Oh
called
yeah.
it the word. So it makes perfectly sense in that context. The widow's son was especially chosen and prepared by the great school, the Great White Lodge, the Brotherhood of Light, to become the spiritual mentor and supreme grand master of the Exoteric Lodge when the temple was completed. Through his untimely death, the plan of the great school for the time being was thwarted, and the word of instruction was indeed lost to the exoteric school of Masonry until future ages might find it. And so it remains today, the lost word, even to this day.
So it sounds like he's actually describing the events with Solomon, Hiram of Tyre, and Hiram of Biff as though they actually took place.
Yes.
And not as allegory. But it is allegory. We're not talking about historical truth here. We're talking about a mythological story to convey a lesson. So what does he say in there?
Yeah, that is a little confusing, but but everything in this particular, well, this and everything else in Masonry is intentionally at times confusing. And as far as what he's saying, I mean, the fact that he's saying that the lost word was an instruction, and this was in 1908, is not a whole lot different than us saying nowadays that what was lost was the connection to God. We lost our connection to God. We lost our way there. So it pretty much says in a lot of ways the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but he specifically says the widow's son was specially chosen and prepared by the great school dash the Great White Lodge dash the Brotherhood of Light dash to become the spiritual mentor and supreme grand master of the Esoteric Lodge when the temple was completed. So if he's sticking with the allegory, what does that mean?
Is that from the mystery schools and the temple, or the temple being completed is actually the way we believe it to a certain extent nowadays, that the completed temple is the completed man, the enlightened man?
Yeah, it has to be, right?
Yeah.
But we're talking about 1908, and he's referencing the Great White Lodge, the Great Brotherhood of Light, the Great School, and those are at the time, the esoteric belief systems were kind of all in vogue, and everybody was kind of into that stuff at the time. And this was the symbolic name of this brotherhood of evolved beings or ascended masters who kind of guide the destiny of mankind.
Yes.
So I guess as an allegory, maybe he's just referring to the master mason who has achieved enlightenment and understands the purpose of the teachings of Masonry, and that he's chosen to be the spiritual mentor and supreme grand master of the Exoteric Lodge when the temple is completed. So when he's finally ascended himself, right?
Right.
I
Right.
guess. I mean,
Right.
allegorically, that's the only way that would make sense to me.
It really does. And also, I don't know why this popped into my head when I read that, but it kind of almost goes back to the when the student is ready, the master will appear.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know, so the master's really yourself. Himself. So yeah, there's a lot of hidden meanings there, and a lot of and 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 what irritates the hell out of me is realizing there's so many hidden meanings, and realizing that every time I pat myself on the back that I figured something out, that there's probably 3 or 4 more hidden meanings that I didn't even realize.
yes,
Terrible.
yeah. You don't get to enjoy it long.
No, you don't. You really don't. What the guy told us one time, that every time I answer a question, there's 4 more questions.
Yeah,
The recovery of the lost word. The whole of the teachings of Freemasonry clusters around the existence, nature, and perfectibility of the human soul by personal effort. I love that. I love that sentence. I read that 4 or 5 times. I read that by personal effort, and that's where we miss the boat a lot. The first great milepost, the lesson of the first degree, is to set man free from ignorance, superstition, and fear, the demon of the threshold. He is thus, for the first time in his progressive evolution, set free from the debasing influence of all who seek by any means whatsoever to enslave his soul and make him an asset or a chattel or of despotism in any form or under whatsoever name or pretense. At the moment of liberation, when he would utilize the revealed light, he is bound by a stronger tie. He then begins the struggle to subdue his passions, the hardest thing ever. The struggle for self control, which is to end in self mastery. That's great.
So before you go further, that he's talking about his initiation as an entered apprentice, right?
Yeah.
And and he's set free from ignorance, superstition, and fear. And so now he's free. He's free to do whatever he wants. And yet, as part of the agreement to be set free, he has to obligate himself
He's
to be
bound by a stronger tie. Yeah.
to be a better person, to be a better man, so that he doesn't use his freedom for ill will and evil, right?
He's using his freed up mind for good things instead of not so good things.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love that section.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. He is found worthy to be free only in the sense and to the degree that he undertakes to control himself, and he voluntarily assumes the obligation and undertakes the work. How far each individual candidate for initiation realizes the meaning and senses the obligation thus assumed is a purely personal question. But among all the initiate institutions known to man at the present day, Freemasonry and the great school back of it are the only ones that undertake with clear intelligence to define man's duty to himself and to his fellow men and to point out the lines of self-perfection, liberation, and higher evolution by an exact ethical formulary free from all dogmatism, superstition, fear, or any ulterior motive whatsoever. Freemasonry thus stands as the epitome of human wisdom and of man's highest achievement to the present time. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
That makes you want to read the whole thing again. Well, I'm halfway. You want to go from there?
no, not yet. I want to go back to that paragraph because
Yeah, me too.
Freemasonry and the great school back of it are the only ones that undertake with clear intelligence to define man's duty to himself and to his fellow man and to point out the lines of self-perfection, liberation, and higher evolution by an exact ethical formulary free from all dogmatism, superstition, fear, or any ulterior motive whatsoever. So the obligation that the Freemason takes at each level of his initiatic experience is free from dogmatism. It's not tied to any specific religion. It's free from superstition. Um, it's not taken out of fear of retribution. It's not taken out of the idea that you might be um, rewarded in some material fashion. You're
Or
not taking
punished.
it because you're afraid that you're going to be punished if you don't. And there's no ulterior motive by Freemasonry for you to take this obligation because they don't benefit in any material sense from the fact that you're taking the obligation. You are taking it purely to better yourself and ultimately to better society.
Exactly.
I mean, when we read this and you were like, there's a lot of stuff in here to discuss, even though it's a short pamphlet. I was a little skeptical, but when I read it, I was like, man, this is really good stuff.
Yeah. It reminds you of some of the discussions we got into in the hotel room late at night.
Oh yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
start talking about what we were missing.
yeah. Especially when we had John Tolbert and Richard Schlodroff and Larry Fitzpatrick with us. I mean,
Wow.
those were some of the best discussions that I've been involved in Freemasonry.
Without a doubt. And I think I went back to try to find out where I got the information to look at this book. I found one page where I had copied and pasted The Lost Word Found by J.D. Buck, and that's all that was on that page. And I have a feeling that Fitzpatrick is the one that sent it to me
Yeah,
a long
probably.
time ago.
Yeah. Well, he's a J.D. Buck fan, I'm sure.
Yeah, he is. He is for sure.
So, all right,
You
you
gonna
want me to
continue?
pick up there?
Huh?
You want me to pick up there?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. It is claimed that good, square work along these lines, intelligently apprehended and persistently followed, will result in mastership. No intelligent individual who has made a careful and thoughtful study of the ceremony and dramatic ritual of the lodge, the obligations assumed, the explanations, and the charge given and accepted, has ever, so far as I know, denied the foregoing statements and conclusions. How far each individual realizes all this and lives up to it is not a matter now under consideration. The intent, the meaning, and the result, when clearly conceived and honestly and persistently followed, are all that I am here claiming. These concern a knowledge of the existence of the human soul, its liberation from all outward slavery, and from the inward slavery of selfishness and all evil passions, and its perfection by personal effort, self-control, equity, justice, and right, brotherly love, relief, and truth. This teaching of the lodge is ritualistic, dramatic, symbolic, and monitorial. It requires attention, observation, thought, and application on the part of the initiate to realize its constructive results. When these logical and legitimate results are fully realized, that is, earned by persistent application and work, what is the net result? The answer to this question is a master. So that's when you become a master mason, not
Exactly.
when you receive your degree.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. We make a joke out of it all the time that you get your degree before you earn it, but
Yeah,
it's absolutely true.
yeah.
Absolutely true.
Let us remember that we are not dealing in compliments. We have assumed that the work is real, seriously undertaken, and persistently followed. And if the results are not substantial, then is the whole thing a farce, a delusion, and a snare? A profanation of holy things, if there be anything holy? A Tantalus worse than that fabled of old? If it were possible for the vain, the selfish, and the mean, in the spirit of vanity, selfishness, and meanness, to achieve spiritual independence and mastership, that fact of itself would constitute a complete justification of vanity, selfishness, and meanness in human life and conduct. If it were possible for the subtle trickster, the clever pretender, the vain boaster, and the morally degenerate to skulk past the law of compensation into the kingdom of spiritual light, then would nature not only condone trickery, pretense, vanity, and immorality, but would become a party to them. If this were possible, then also would there be no meaning in honesty, sincerity, humility, and morality? For if nature made no distinction, why should man?
That is huge. That is
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
I mean, wow, wow.
Well, and when he talks about if it were possible for the vain, the selfish, and the mean, in the spirit of vanity, selfishness, and meanness to achieve spiritual independence and mastership, that fact of itself would constitute a complete justification of vanity, selfishness, and meanness in human life and conduct. But you and I both know that there are vain, selfish, and mean members in this fraternity who claim to be masters who are not.
That's exactly right. And he makes a point here, I think, in the next paragraph or the next page that kind of speaks to what you just said. I mean, it's just I hate to say it, but I see so many non-Masons in Masonry every day. It's distressing.
Well, that goes back to your talk about we need Masons, not members.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mm.
The School of Natural Science has demonstrated through centuries of experiment that there are no tricksters nor moral degenerates within the temple of spiritual light, that there is no subterranean rear entrance, and that all who reach its sanctum sanctorum do so by way of the front door, and then only after having met and complied with every section and requirement of the law of light. Each individual admitted to its sacred precincts has come of his own free will and accord. He has given the right knock. He has proved beyond all question that he is duly and truly prepared, worthy and well qualified, and that upon his own merit alone he is entitled to enter and be received in due and ancient form. It is declared herein unequivocally that back of all the symbolical in Freemasonry lies the actual, the real, the substantial, and the true, and that it is the real that gives life and light and meaning to the ideal and the symbolical. That back and beyond the reputed master, there is the real master. That back of, beyond, and antedating speculative masonry by many centuries, there is a practical masonry of which the speculative is only a hint, a symbol, or an outer form. And finally, that back of the substitute known to speculative masonry, there is the real word, lost only to the speculative and to be recovered and restored whenever the lodge really passes from refreshment to labor, restores order from confusion, and finds the true designs upon the trestle board.
Boy, that really, I mean, it says it right there, that there are so many that believe that they are masters, believe that they have all the answers, that believe they have found the light and been enlightened, who are not.
Yeah.
Who are not.
I mean,
You know,
people don't write like this anymore, and
I know it. Golly.
it's like poetry to me. It's like
Yes,
these
exactly.
words just jump off the page at me.
Exactly. And the meaning immediately is there. I mean, you for some reason it seems like the meaning just kind of jumps out at you, true and everything. And I really like the idea of the speculative masonry and practical masonry. I mean,
Yeah.
there's that really tells me what it's talking about. I mean,
Well, and I think he's talking about the underground stream, right?
exactly
He's advocating for this idea that there is Freemasonry is only the name of the latest um, incarnation of these teachings, and that
right.
prior to speculative Freemasonry, there was what he calls practical Masonry, and I don't think he's talking about the stone builders or the
No,
guilds.
no, not
He's talking about whatever it was prior to Freemasonry that taught these essential truths.
and while everybody above ground, so to speak, were substituting and changing and bastardizing, if you will, the teachings and the meanings and everything. The masonry, the practical masonry, was still continuing underground, and it's always been there, and it's a problem trying to reconcile the two because you can't.
Well, and that's what Pike was talking about earlier when he said, that the teachings of Masonry were never meant to be understood by the vast number of Masons.
Right, exactly. Because he knew, and that's the reason for the mystery schools and why only certain people were invited to the deeper mysteries, and everybody got to partake of the lesser mysteries. And he's talking about the uh, that the real word was lost only to the speculative, you
Yeah.
know, and it just wow. It's a great story. I mean, it's a great reminder and a great saying. Just it tells the story
Yeah.
truthfully.
All right. By these signs ye shall know him. The trestle board, the signs, the word, the instruction. These are the sole criterion of the master in the one case as in the other, in practical no less than in speculative masonry. The jewel will be found on the body, and the jewel is light, truth, love in perfect equilibrium. He who can distinguish light from darkness, truth from falsehood, love from hatred, need be in no doubt nor uncertainty about the jewel of the Grand Master. Nor need he be in any doubt about receiving the true word when the temple is completed by work according to the designs. He may demand it out of season, or deny that it exists at all if he so chooses, yet he can receive it in but one way, by merit and previous proficiency, as all masters have done who have gone this way before. The writer is perfectly well aware that many Masons will repudiate this serious aspect of Freemasonry and pride themselves on their own intelligence while shrugging their shoulders at the credulity of those who take the subject seriously. Boy, isn't that the truth?
Ain't that the truth? I mean, it's absolutely the truth.
But this real Masonry and this serious aspect being true, the penalty thus paid by the writer for finding some few glimpses of the truth and endeavoring to help others to find the same is small indeed, much as he values the respect of his fellow craftsmen. So he's obviously he's taking heat
Oh,
for
yeah.
for offering this opinion of what Freemasonry is really about.
Not only is
Much
he offering
much
the
like
opinion,
you and I do
oh,
with quite a few people that tell us this is BS.
and that's exactly what they say.
Yeah.
But he's true. He's absolutely right because and to me he's trying to he's trying to say, hey, I'm sorry, but it's the truth.
Yeah, and the penalty that he pays for it is small compared to the reward that he
Exactly.
gets.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it would be perfectly legitimate for the student to inquire, what evidence have you that the great school and any real masters exist at all? Passing by the traditions of the Lodge and the philosophy of Masonic symbolism for the moment, I am ready to admit that the man and the account he gives of the existence and present status of the great school must fill the bill. The man himself must be required to show his credentials, not in high-sounding titles, patents, and mysterious characters signed by we know not whom, but his credentials must be of manhood and mastership intrinsically possessed, of character, of wisdom, of beneficence, and of loving kindness. Are not these the designs on the trestle board? And is not the real Grand Master one who can furnish them at sight or on demand? I hold that any man exhibiting such credentials and so representing the great school is worthy of and entitled to a very careful consideration, a conscientious examination to see if he really can fit the bill. In the first place, does he seek notoriety? Is he out for graft? Has he anything to gain personally? Does he seek to exploit us? Has he unworthy ulterior motives? These are all intelligent and legitimate questions, and he who does not ask them is likely to be deceived any day by any mere pretender, just as scores of people are deceived and imposed on every day. Hmm.
Mm,
We
wow.
have one possessed of the signs of the Master and the author of the great work. That work is his trestle board. The designs therein revealed and the plans for the construction of the temple of the human soul therein set forth are sufficiently clear, intelligent, and explicit to enable any intelligent man, particularly if he be a just and upright Mason, to judge and measure his work. The book was written, beyond all question, with this identical design and for this specific purpose. And knowing the man as I do, and having the honor and the blessedness of 5 years of acquaintance and intimate association with him and study under him, I am entirely satisfied that he is prepared to stand on the record made in the great work. So the great work is uh, the book that was written by J.E. Richardson. So is that who he's talking about?
Yep.
He considers him to be an ascended master.
Now that you found that, and I'll be honest with you, I was looking for a couple of 3 days to find out, who he thought was the great work, and one answer that I got, it plainly stated that J.D. Buck considered himself as a master, and that some of what he was talking about, if not all, he was talking about himself. So was he? Is he? I don't know. I really don't know. But that's that. And then trying to find out, the book of the great work. That was a rabbit hole.
Yeah, well, and he specifically references the chapter on compensation.
Yes.
And as part of that discussion, the law of equilibrium, the natural, moral, and spiritual balance governing all personal progress. It explains that justice in the universe operates automatically through natural law rather than divine favoritism or punishment. So it's interesting, and I think at some point we need to get that book.
We absolutely do. Absolutely do. Absolutely.
Okay. By his work we may know him, and by the account therein plainly and specifically set forth may we judge of the great school, the school of natural science, from which he claims to have received his instruction, and which he finds it his privilege and his duty to represent at the present time. His message is addressed to the progressive intelligence of the age in its dedication. Here, then, is not a rumor, nor a fad, nor a thing easily to be thrust aside, but cold type, concise statements, deliberate propositions made in good English and revealing educated intelligence and sincerity on every page. Nothing like it can be found in the annals of Freemasonry. It is unique. It stands alone. It commands respect and is bound, soon or late, to record the judgment of every intelligent and sincere man, every just and upright Mason in the world. Whether the individual Mason shall repeat hearsay opinions, pro or con, whether he shall approve and accept or disapprove and condemn after a careful reading, is not here and now a matter to be considered. The great work will have to be reckoned with. If the propositions contained in this book prove true and acceptable to any large body of the craft, then the future generations, by whom the real word of the Master is to be recovered and restored, is the present generation, and the time has come. If Freemasonry, working with only a substitute, has achieved its present status and worldwide beneficence, what may justly be anticipated and confidently expected of it when it shall have been rehabilitated and restored to its ancient wisdom and grandeur? The fraternity is deliberately challenged to just this issue in the great work. It has been shown that Masonry concerns itself with the human soul and the building of individual character by personal effort. This constitutes the entire genius of initiation in Freemasonry. Modern science is just at the threshold of real knowledge of psychology and now postulates the human soul as an empirical fact. So-called psychological science is still testing phenomena and gathering more data with no definite theorem in sight. Spiritualism has demonstrated the existence of a mass of verified phenomena outside of physics and kinetics and has extended the boundaries of consciousness a plane above, superliminal, and a plane below, subliminal, that previously recognized. The various religions of the day reaffirm the old belief in the existence and immortality of the soul, while among both believers and preachers are found many who disbelieve or deny altogether, or claim that definite knowledge is impossible. Under all these conditions and signs of the time, here comes one who declares that the human soul is a fact. There is no death, but transition only. Man may become master of life and death and thus demonstrate his power to travel in foreign countries, that is, outside the physical body, and so demonstrate the persistence of the soul after the change called death.
Wow.
So what's he saying there, Chris?
Hmm?
Man may become master of life and death and thus demonstrate his power to travel in foreign countries, and that is outside the physical body, and so demonstrate the persistence of the soul after the change called death. Is he
Yeah.
talking about like astral projection in
I think he's talking,
1908?
yes, I think he's talking about that. I think he's talking about the return of a soul to the source, traveling plane by plane back to God. I think he's talking about a lot of things there, but yeah, the life, death, and uh, uh, transformation, life, death cycle. Yeah,
Huh.
and
So
you
he
know,
was a physician, a theosophist, and a Masonic writer, um, known for mystic masonry's efforts to connect Masonic symbolism with esoteric philosophy, which is what this pamphlet is all about. So he was a theosophist. So he was uh, a follower of Blavatsky and her crew.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well then that would make sense because he did talk about spiritualism, although he didn't give them much credit. Um,
He didn't go very deep into it, which is surprising considering. But these was he also the he never mentioned Blavatsky, but he golly. So my mind is all messed up here. I could have swore he said something about hmm,
Mediumship.
yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
it's coming, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Meantime, it is shown that the method of accomplishing this great work of all the ages is but the fruition, the reward, the legitimate consummation of the building of character by personal effort, as illustrated and exemplified in initiation into the Masonic Lodge. It is the legitimate reward of real mastership and but the normal higher evolution of man under natural law. Fortunately for man, the historic enemy of Freemasonry and individual liberty cannot suppress the book, the great work, and persecution of its author or condemnation and expurgation of the book itself would only sustain the writer and advertise his work and impel thousands of the otherwise indifferent to read it. Boy, that's
He's telling me, say all you want, but you're just going to be helping me.
yeah, the modern historic enemy of Freemasonry and human liberty is not that kind of a fool. It is therefore a question which Freemasons alone can determine whether they have interest enough to examine the intrinsic evidence in favor of the claims of the great work, as hundreds of the most intelligent men and women outside the craft are already doing, with the most satisfactory results and the most unqualified appreciation and approval. The message and appeal are peculiarly to Freemasons for reasons already shown, and it will remain to be determined whether it shall again be recorded, quote, "He came to his own, and his own received him not." One thing is certain. The message is out there for all time, and nothing short of a cataclysm can now suppress it. Well, indifference suppressed it,
Right, right.
obviously.
Apathy.
The active enemy of human liberty may destroy our free schools and unite with mammon to oppress the poor, but it will never be able to sophisticate the great work, nor deprive the intelligent seeker for truth of his natural and divine birthright, nor compel him to do penance for daring to exercise his freedom and learn his immortal destiny as a man. Quote, They are slaves who will not speak for the fallen and the weak. They are slaves who dare not be in the sight with two or three. The warfare of the ages has focalized at last on a tremendous scale in this 20th century and in these United States of America. Poverty and wealth, labor and capital, socialism and despotism, cooperation and competition, Freemasonry and clericalism, these are but the battalions, the divisions, the corps of seemingly hostile legions arrayed against each other. Back of and beyond all these surface struggles and these warring armies lies the essential problem of human life. Other armies fight for temporal power and earthly dominion, but the issue between materialism and spiritism goes to the very heart of things. All other warfare is waged to determine how men shall live here, the ways and the means, the comfort and the welfare of the many, the whole, or only the few. But in the real issue, the question is whether man shall live at all. Is he an ephemeral phenomenon, a passing show, or is his life real and enduring? Does he survive the cataclysms of time? Does he inherit the kingdom of heaven? May he achieve immortality? A large majority of reputedly intelligent persons will answer unhesitatingly, nobody knows, or ever did know, or ever can know. Those are things which belong to the unknowable. It is this agnostic Gnosticism, this dogmatic nihilism, against which Sir Oliver Lodge, the great physical scientist, in the name of science, protests. Modern thought and the more advanced scientists have worked up to this point and found an open door, though aside from subjective phenomena, mediumship, they have no exact theorem. They know not how to proceed. This exact and definite theorem challenges them in the great work. Think for a moment what it would mean to the toiling, sorrowing, hoping, and aspiring children of men could an exact, definite, demonstrable, and affirmative answer be given to the question of the ages. If a man die, shall he live again? Think what it would also mean if that affirmative answer could tell us where and how, and under what conditions life persists beyond the grave, and exactly how conditions and the life lived here determine the conditions of life there. Is it not worthwhile? This is precisely the question treated in the great work. And I would argue it's precisely the question treated in Freemasonry.
Exactly.
There's no other question that matters. Is there life after this? And does our life lived here affect how the life will be lived there?
And Freemasonry is one of the only institutions or organizations that address that.
Well, at least without a dogmatic requirement.
Right.
It seems to incorporate only those things that are agreed upon by all major religions of the time. We sorely need genuine spiritual knowledge to illumine the dark places of the present life, to give the real meaning of life. Not from the vicissitudes of 80 years and 10, which is even now far beyond the average, but with the vistas of 1,000 years, plane after plane revealed with plane after plane beyond. And this knowledge comes in the present age peculiarly to Freemasonry, because the craft is duly and truly prepared to nourish the tradition, preserve the landmarks, and ready to receive it, and not scout it and turn it away when the world sorely needs it and the times seem propitious for its revelation. It comes to our fraternity with the hopeful assurance that here it will surely find some who are ready to receive it and pass it on from out the ear as they receive it, instead of crying, "Away with it, crucify it." In Galilee, there were only a few fishermen and the poor who listened gladly. In America today, there are said to be over 2 million just and upright Masons. How will they listen? Will they recognize the designs on the trestle board? Will they pass from darkness to light? Will they still the confusion? Or will they, as their craftsmen of old, hide in the caves of ignorance and be judged at last by the imprecations of their own mouths? Oh, that I had only known! Will the listening ear and the faithful breast receive instruction? Alas, who can tell? And this great work is only the beginning, the first lesson. More is ready to follow. Okay, I've read enough. Why don't you finish it up?
Until the present time, the world had no nomenclature, no language in which the things of the spirit could be conveyed to the children of men. Paul saw things impossible to utter. No one would understand him. The world had to work up to it, and now the time has come. And he puts that in caps because he's really hitting on that. It is not now the inability to apprehend as it was then. Today, nothing could bar the way but the unwillingness to listen, the crass materialism that prejudges, scouts, and denies without examination. There will be today no fudging of the payroll. Each will get exactly what he has earned, for it all depends on himself. An angel from heaven could not compel him to listen, and no real master is likely to try, for he knows how useless it would be. He simply finds the listening ear and the faithful breast among other degrees of intelligence. Reference is here made to the School of Natural Science, which deals only with cold, hard facts, to the great work, and to the real master now among us. No one is asked to believe. All are invited to investigate, to examine carefully as the present writer has done, and then to reject or accept according to evidence and their own unbiased judgment. Otherwise, and without such examination, any conclusion to which they may arrive is utterly worthless, either to themselves or others, as it could be only prejudice due to credulity or incredulity, neither of which has ever yet led men to light and knowledge. There was indeed a grand Masonic word, the grandest word in truth of which the human intelligence can conceive. But it was not a mere syllabic word, capable of being given and received by men of inferior intelligence or impure lives. It was the grand Masonic word of instruction in the spiritual wisdom of the masters. It could be given by none but a master of the great school, and received by none but him who was duly and truly prepared, worthy and well qualified to become such a master. Many there are who have sought to unravel this great mystery. To this end, great libraries have been written only to bury the lost word more deeply beneath the rubbish of the temple. The book of which I have written, The Great Work, is an exoteric presentation of the grand Masonic word that was lost. The author, a master mason, has received that ancient word of instruction and is today in position to give it to those who can prove themselves duly and truly prepared, worthy and well qualified to receive it. And then the lineal key then is the interpretive method that reveals this truth in the possession of one who knows the combination. It means that the true initiate who has harmonized intellect, morality, and spirit can use this method to unlock the allegorical treasury of sacred traditions and find the hidden wisdom. So
what we're really talking about is a journey back to the innocence of our soul at birth, right?
it's
And
exactly
finding our way back to the divine after the spoiling of our souls by the material world.
after the realization that the realization that we have to get back, and also realizing that we're not going to get back until we get ourselves back to that innocent purity that we had at the beginning. It was cool, some of the words that he used to describe the entered apprentice degree. When we've talked about it, it's a preparation. It's a beginning anointment or preparation to get you ready for the real degree. And that was cool to hear.
Well, and it also kind of reaffirms the importance of the obligations, the charges,
Yeah.
all of the lessons that are learned in the experience itself.
Yeah.
Those are your roadmaps.
It's
That's
it's not just important to get to the master's degree. All of them are important.
right.
The whole of the teachings of Freemasonry clusters around the existence, nature, and perfectibility of the human soul by personal effort. Wow. That's
I mean, it really is it's all about spiritual awakening, right? It's not, I mean, when he's talking about rediscovering the lost word, it's about the rediscovery of the divine truth that's within all of us, right? And this seeking that you and I were talking about of being reunited with God, and to purge all of this learned negativity and meanness and vainness and selfishness, the
yeah,
rough and superfluous parts of us.
there you go. It says it's the inner work of spiritual regeneration, the conscious, deliberate effort of the individual to recover the lost word, meaning the true knowledge of the divine, the inner logos, or the hidden principle of light. And for Buck, the great work is not just moral improvement or intellectual learning, it's a transformative initiatory process where the human personality is purified, the selfishness, ignorance, and passion, and all of those things. The divine spark within, when he sometimes equates the Christ within, or the Word is awakened. I mean, this is all everything that we've read and studied all these years.
Well, and
In 1908,
you keep talking about within, and that's really what it boils down to. It's an inward journey. The temple is within, and it's something that each one of us has to discover for ourselves, because it's not going to be the same for everybody, right?
right, right,
But I enjoyed this. So
yeah, I really did too.
give
I
it,
knew
give
you
it a
would if you
rating.
ever
Give it a rating of white balls.
white balls. I tell you what, because this spoke to me exactly the things I wanted to hear, and in the way I wanted to hear them. I got to give this a 10.2 white balls.
10.2. Oh, you're going with the decimal points, huh?
That's no points.
Not being me, but you're going over the max.
It's like an A plus. You know what I mean? I
Well,
like this. I really like this book. I
I
really do.
liked it too. I really did. I'm not going to give it a 10 because um, even though the forward says that he's not doing this for any other reason than the fact that he believes what it is that he's saying, some of it still reads like he's helping sell that other guy's book.
Well, yeah. I mean, he preaches it the big time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're right. We have to find that book. We got to go
Yeah.
get that book. We may
I,
be doing this again.
I looked. We looked, and the book of that title was written, at least the latest incarnation of that book was written 20 years after Buck wrote this pamphlet. So I don't know if he had an
Referring to a
advanced
book,
copy.
he was referring to a book that wasn't even written yet. Is that
Well,
what you're
that the
maybe
little
that
research that we've been able to do since reading this pamphlet, um, I don't know. It could be that it's just the latest revision.
well,
It was written in 1928.
he says right here, the great work is the spiritual rebirth and elevation of the individual, the journey towards mastery of the soul. That's his
Yeah,
definition of the great work.
but that the great work that he references in that particular sentence, the great work is not in quotation marks. When he's talking about the great work in other areas, they are in
Exactly.
quotation marks.
Exactly.
So
That's why.
he's talking about the great work in two different ways.
Yeah,
One is the book
yeah.
and the author thereof, and the other is the
The
real
great,
work that we're
yeah,
talking
the
about.
great work that we're engaged upon
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Also,
And as an allegory, I think it's fascinating and
yes.
fabulous. And I
Yeah.
think everybody ought to read it and think about it and talk about it
And I,
with like-minded guys. And
and I,
I'm going to give it a 9-1.
whoa. Well,
Yeah.
I echo what you said earlier that they don't write like this anymore. And
Yeah.
this style of writing just I mean it sucks you in. You can't
Oh,
get
it's
enough.
beautiful. Yeah, it's eloquent and beautifully written, flows really well.
Yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
So, is that going to wrap it up for this episode? I think
I
so.
Yeah, I won't be able to sleep tonight.
Well, it's been a good talk. I enjoyed reading this book. Thanks for recommending it. I get to pick the next one, although next month we're going to have a guest reviewer, and he's
Yes.
chosen his own book.
Do we know
So
this guy?
we know him pretty well.
We do?
I think a lot of people know him pretty well,
Yeah, probably. Probably.
at least in Texas and a little in Arkansas.
All right.
So that's going to wrap it up for the Masonic Shelf this episode. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed discussing this book. And until next time, keep reading.